Right everyone, how are we all doing? So this video is going to be about the UK markings YARSA markings, why they're not about safety in any way, shape or form in my opinion. Okay, so we're going to go down a bit of a rabbit hole. You can like the video, you can subscribe, you can say that I'm wrong in the comments, feel free. But let's do it, let's look at C markings and UK markings and see why it's not about safety. Right then, so why do I think C markings are not about safety? So back in the day, and we're going to go back to 2010, 2011, a lot of us used to build our own aircraft. So we will build things like this. This is, hopefully, if I get the right image, this is a Vulcan Mantis hovering. And we will buy the parts. So you buy the frame, you buy the speed controller, you buy the flight controller, you buy the motors, you buy the props. You put it all together, and then you can fly it. And that's it. You go out, you do your tests, you make sure the aircraft's all right, and you fly. No one checks anything, no one does anything other than yourself. You're responsible because that's the way it is. And we fly. And we were using these machines for commercial work. Now, and that was in 2010 and before that. So we then move on, and time moves on and technology moves on. Then we got the ready to fly machines like the Phantom, which is this, the DJI Phantom for example. The Phantom 2, the Phantom 3, the Phantom 4, the 4 Pro, which this is, and sadly we've not got the 5. Which is a bit of a shame really, because I quite like the Phantoms. Now, interestingly, and what's really interesting about the Phantom, for example, is it was never perfect, but what it kind of proves, if you like, is we're always told that safety and manned aviation is always safe because it's skin in the game. You know, you'll always hear, why don't they have transponders? Well, it's because they can look out the cockpit left and right. They can't see behind themselves, they can't see beneath themselves, and they can't see above themselves. But because they've got skin in the game, they're safe. However, how about this for a concept, and why drones are inherently safe? We splash our hard-earned cash, okay? So we will spend £2,000 maybe 3, maybe a little bit more, depending, and we will buy a drone. How many people will buy a drone that's reportedly falling out the sky all the time? I wouldn't. I know everyone that I fly with wouldn't. So drones have to be inherently safe, because DJI wouldn't be as big as it is today if it made an aircraft that fell out the sky every 5 minutes. Let's be clear, they would go bust very quickly. Very, very quickly. So drones have always been very, very safe. So take the Mavic 2 Pro. This is a Mavic 2 Pro. Does this need a C marking? Well, it's going to get relegated to the legacy category, and it'll only be able to fly in the A3 Open for hobby flyers, unless you've got Article 16, of course. But is this drone unsafe? Well, the answer is clearly no. This has got to be one of the safest drones there is out there. It doesn't need a C marking to be safe. It doesn't need a C marking to meet anything. It's inherently safe, because if it was bad, these machines, DJI, would have gone bust because people wouldn't fly them. This is a great machine, great camera, solid. But because of regulators and I'm going to suspect lobbyists, and I'm going to suspect bad regulation, for the most part, I'm afraid. There was a need to interfere. And the need to interfere was to go, right, this aircraft, as of 2023, has to have a C marking. If not, you've got to fly it over there because it's suddenly unsafe. It was never unsafe to begin with. How many people do you think have been killed by these? Let me just do the check. Oh, Sweet FA. How many people have been killed by a Phantom falling on them? Sweet FA. The numbers kind of speak for themselves. The amount of injuries from drones, as in falling out the sky and smacking someone and killing them, or falling on a car and causing a 10-car pile-up, or, if you like, the science that the FAA gets presented to by likes of Google and others, it's basically there's a nuclear bomb-sized explosion that's going to level an entire hospital. And that's the reason to have them registered, by the way. And, you know, for safety, it's amazing, right? So let me also say this, that, you know, I fly model planes, model helicopters and everything else. When you're at a club and you're in the community, and before Facebook even took off, you buy your bits, you buy your kit, you buy your plane, you buy your bits. You buy stuff you know is good because your club mates, you're like a knowledge base. At some point, Yas is going to go, the speed controller in this has to be certified. At that point there, it's going to cost money. This motor has to be certified. It's all a horse crock because we already know years of testing what's good and what's bad. If something is going to be bad, it won't sell. The company will literally go out of business. We have money in the game is what I'm trying to say. Our money, we don't waste it. I do not waste money. Okay? I wouldn't buy an aircraft, like I say, that flies, falls out the sky. Flies, fall out the sky. Why would you do it? If it's got a firmware issue, you wouldn't buy it because it spreads across the internet. I mean, especially now, and you go, don't buy that because it's shit, it falls out the sky. And it's so true. We've got money in the game. Now, people go, oh, the C standards aren't really about safety. It's about standards. Well, the problem is with standards, you're going, right, okay, this doesn't meet the standards, so it can't have a sticker because the CAA or YASA will say a sticker's too easy to copy and clone. Then they'll go, right, it's got to be an engraving somewhere on the frame. So it's got to be engraved in, say, this arm. All you would have to do is find out who manufactures the arm, get them to change the part to put the engraving in, change the moulding, and just buy that arm. Put it on here, I've got a C-marked aircraft. Now, some people are going to go to me, oh, can't do that. Well, right to repair gives me the right to buy new parts for this. It doesn't mean I have to go, oh look, that's a DJI arm. Yeah, I'll buy that. I haven't got a Scooby-Doo. Oh look, it says it's C-marked. I'll just buy that then. I'll just put that on the drone. Because there's nothing to say you can't. The right to repair means I have the right to buy a part that's compatible with my drone. So they're worried about a sticker being copied. It's completely irrelevant about the sticker being able to be copied because you can also do it for any part of this drone. Absolutely any part of it, which is really interesting as well. But my point is that drones are inherently safe because those manufacturers want to give us a product that we know works and is reliable. And therefore, the C0, the C1 and C2 stuff are all pointless. You can't say any of them are about safety. And I'll get to why. Because C0 overflight for safety, yes, 250 grams is inherently safe. The DJI did a report, up to 2 kilos gives someone, you've only got a 70% chance of surviving if it was to hit you at full speed. Now, there's a 30% chance it could cause a fatality. Now, some people might think, well, 30% is too high. Well, those odds aren't actually too bad if you're going to get hit by a drone full on. But what's really interesting is it's like the 50-metre separation bubble. So the C2 rating, or the A2 CFC that gives you the 50 metres horizontal separation, the worst thing about that is, and this is why I think the A2 CFC and the 50 metre horizontal separation is a complete load of crock, to be honest, is the worst place for a drone to fail is not when it's over you, okay? Because these tend to be moving forward. It's when it fails 10 metres, 20 metres before it gets to you, because if it's that far away, if you're in the falling arc, or that's your bad place to be. So it's really interesting. If you look at the scientific stuff that's been presented by DJI now, safety stuff, it goes to show that the chance of this actually killing someone is very slim anyway. We know that failures are rare. They can happen. You can never predict a system-wide failure at all. So it's not reckless, by the way. If one of these was just to fail and fall out the sky and fall into a car, it's not reckless. It's not property endangerment, because you can't predict a random failure. And this happens in manned aviation as well. Take a helicopter, it runs out of fuel, it falls out the sky, goes through a pub roof. It's that kind of failure could have been predicted. But if it's got faulty sensors, or a gearbox just goes in a helicopter, the blades just come off the top of it, that's a random failure. You can't predict them. You can do everything you can to make sure these things do not happen by doing your pre-flight, which is why you check your props, make sure they're secure, check everything, the fixings and mountings are good. Doing that is the safety side. The standard stuff, though, for the C2, C1, that's more about being sly buggers by our regulators. Now, what do I mean they're being sly? Well, they're being sly because they've realised that somehow they want certain things, or lobbyists or governments are worried that this little drone is going to carry a nuclear bomb and blow up the hospital, because they've seen that Google report and they've followed the FAA stuff and gone, that's the scientific evidence, that's what we're going to use. So they want certain things of drones. Take remote ID. We know that's a load of horse crock. See the video. But then they're going standard. So what we could do is, okay, this drone's really quiet already. So we could set like a noise level system for annoying noises. So we could get that. We could put something to do with noising, because we need to. You didn't need to, because this is already inherently quiet. Okay, when this is at 200 feet, you'll hardly hear it. Okay, that's the interesting bit. The Phantom 4 Pro down there, that's noisier. You'll hear that. This, meh. And so the reason they brought standards in, it's got nothing to do with safety. It's all about how can we. Oh shit! What we can do is, tell you what. We'll bring it in so we can get remote ID through the back door, so they can bend over for that one. We'll come up with some horse crock about safety, about propellers being made a certain way or having a certain thing. It's a propeller, it needs to be a certain strength to carry the aircraft in the air, for vertical's sake. We'll have a standard. What else can we put standard in for? Oh, it's got to have a light on it. It's got to have geofencing. It's got to have blah, 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 blah. And none of that stuff is about safety. They'll go, oh, well, the props are made so they have to do this, that and the other. It's not like a car where it needs a crumple zone, okay? Because remember, this has to be able to stand weather conditions. So do you make it so it can fly in 30 mile an hour winds and its crumple zone is at 60 mile an hour winds? What a load of crock. So it's interesting, but for me, the C markings, none of it's about safety. Don't let them ever tell you it is. If they do, they're full of it. About standards, they could argue it's standardising across Europe. Well, that would be easy. Just go, okay, Europe, all national aviation authorities have their own predefined rules anyway. What we'd like to do is just make it easier so that people going there to work, it's easier to get in touch with the National Aviation Authority to get permission to fly, because notoriously countries like Spain were incredibly hard, just as an example, not having a dig at Spain, just as an example. And you go, oh, okay, we've got this, and this is our drone. We used to have 2 weights in the UK, 7.5 and over, 7.5 and under. We had one of the better systems, but now it's so complicated. You just look at it and you just go, this is stupid. They've created more problems than they solved. And this is a fundamental problem with humans. If you've got a problem, then it needs a solution. However, if you don't have a solution, don't create anything, because you create the problem. And that's what happened. You never needed to make any standards. You never needed anything for safety because the manufacturers were already on it, like Sonic, because they don't want to go bust. They want to make us a product that works. Manned aviation has skin in the game, therefore it's safe. When they quite clearly, sadly, people seem to die monthly from manned aviation. We don't have skin in the game. We have money in the game. And money in the game seems to be winning for some reason on safety. Anyway, a little bit of a rant in there somewhere. Yeah, but I think the CE marking thing's a load of horse crock. And anyone that thinks that making it so it's a moulding in the airframe, I'm laughing, because just wait until someone brings out a moulded part, because it'll just go on the aircraft. Dead easy to replace an arm, right to repair, dead easy. And here's the thing, there's nothing any regulator can do to stop that. It's like the stickers, if they've made it a holographic sticker, nothing you can do to stop it being copied, sadly. And it's not needed. These regulations, they were never needed. They've created more problems than ever. No one thought about remote ID. No one thought about the privacy issues. No one thought about the commercial impact of remote ID, where it would cause us a lot of harm either, which was quite interesting. So if I'm working and I've got a certain way of 3D modelling, what's to stop my competitor being able to see how I flew to get a similar or same data set? None of these things have been thought out about remote ID. It's just a shower of cock-ups. And remote ID, of course, never stops anyone from doing anything, nothing bad. You know, would someone... This is the amusing bit. Would someone put remote ID on a drone if they're going to do something bad? No, they wouldn't. You know, it's like, it's just ridiculous. It really is. If it's a little bit of fear about someone doing something bad with a drone, and that's a good enough reason for remote ID, then I ask this to the regulators and to lobbyists and to any person that makes laws and rules. Why is it rucksacks don't have any kind of remote ID or tracking? And that sounds completely absurd, right? I understand what I'm saying sounds totally stupid, outrageous and bonkers. What do you mean make a rucksack so it's got a tracking system on it? Well, yes. Rucksacks are used to hide and to carry nasty things. Why are they not regulated? Why are they not all made see-through? Just pointing out the flawed logic in remote ID. And people that want to do bad things with drones, you won't be able to stop them with remote ID, nor can you limit it. Right, anyway, there's a rant in there somewhere. Again, safe flying everyone, take care, have a good one.